we will be welcoming Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa back on stage. In this fireside chat, we'll be speaking about the low-hanging fruits, not only in South Africa, but also in Africa as well. He will be interviewed by His Excellency Tarek El Molla. So please, a round of applause for both of them as they make their way to stage.
Excellency.
Oh, hello. Yes, my friend.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us at this important session of the Fireside Chat with His Excellency Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. So let me start by introducing myself. So I am Tarek El Molla, and I am the former Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources in Egypt from the period 2015 to 2024. Now I am having my consultancy, Luminant Consultancy firm. I would like to welcome His Excellency Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa,
Yes, thanks.
Minister of Electricity and Energy in South Africa. I just want to give some background. His Excellency holds a BSc in Civil Engineering from University of Durban. He holds a Master in Public Administration, University of Pretoria, Masters of Business Leadership, UNISA, and a PhD in Public Affairs, University of Pretoria. His Excellency was a mayor of Shawani from the period from 2010 to 2016, a Gauteng member of the Executive Council, and then in March 23, he was appointed as Minister in the Presidency responsible for electricity. And as of 3rd of July 24, following a cabinet reconfiguration, His Excellency became the Minister of Electricity and Energy when the energy functions were separated out from the former Ministerial Resources and Energy portfolio. Welcome, Honorable Minister. At the beginning of this session, you had an excellent key speech note, and you had a good presentation regarding the ambitious plans of South Africa, together with its role hosting the GA presidency. So with that, I think that this was like a quick briefing, but now we take the advantage and the opportunity to have this fireside chat together with you and to have some more in-depth and to perhaps give some shed on what we would like to know about the ambitions of the targets that you have set as the Integrated Resource Plan, the IRP. So how would South Africa ensure the challenge that we have here in South Africa, which is the stable electricity, the load shedding, and this is on the short term, while also pushing towards greener energy transition? The floor is yours, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Well, I must say that there's a lot of lessons learned from the electricity crisis. First is that leadership is important. I mean, if you look at the installed capacity on the generation side, is over 51 gigawatts. At peak, I think the demand is about 35, 36 gigawatts. So you shouldn't be having a problem. So if you like, you have a surplus of close to 16 gigawatts. But we have seen that over a period of time when the engineers advise the policymakers that at the rate at which we're experiencing growth, we are connecting new people onto the grid. Remember that we had a system that was universally categorized as a crime against humanity. Once we liquidated that system in 1994, at that period, only 34% of households had access to electricity. Now, as I speak to you, that number is at 94%. So we're fast approaching universal access. But when the energy planners were making the point that if you don't make the following investments, look after the fleet of the generating units, you are likely going to run into a problem.
This is true.
Of course, the planners, the policymakers ignored science and the engineers, and then we landed with what we had. And then the second issue is that there has to be a deliberate effort on the part of the policymakers to ensure that there's alignment of skills to what the requirements of the positions are. So you would have seen that part of the crisis is the misalignment of skills. So just getting the wrong people inappropriately qualified to lead an SOE of the size of ESCOM. So the kind of choices that they make and decisions that they make are not informed by their ability to master the technical aspects associated with a position of that nature. And then the constellation of that is that you land with an electricity crisis that throttles the growth of the country, undermine the prospects for industrialization, so on and so forth. So those are the lessons that have been learned. So going forward, we address that evidence-led, the policy choices. 83% of our generation capacity comes from coal-fired power stations. We make the point every time, we don't have a coal problem, we have an emissions problem. And science has found a way of resolving how you are able to reduce the emissions and so on and so forth. And then I did say in the earlier presentation that we are sitting on an abundance of renewable energy assets in the country. They are located on the southern parts of the country, the eastern, the coastal parts of the country, the Western Cape, the province we are in, the Northern Cape, and the Eastern Cape. And then you find that there's no grid capacity, and that's why you are investing a lot of money in expanding the grid so that we are able to onboard the renewables. So the point I'm making is that our domestic nuances are such that we have got abundance of renewable energy sources and also coal. It's a strategic mineral. So we've designated coal as a critical mineral. So you're not about to abandon it. It's about using all of the above. First, to address our principal concern is about the growth domestically, but also we have committed internationally to our obligations to reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's not a binary conversation. You can do all of the above simultaneously. And that's what our RP will say, articulate, if you like, these energy sources that are going to underpin the growth of the economy, including providing to neighboring countries, because that has been a role that we've been playing. We've got very cordial relationships with our neighbors. We want to keep it that way and help the economies to grow.
I agree, and actually this is all about energy security. So
absolutely, yes.
This mix, especially that we have here, these resources, whether wind, sun,
absolutely.
coal, this is true. You have to optimize it. But however, the challenge now, and actually we have seen that in all African countries and the Middle East, and I mean all our countries are suffering from the lack of investment. So this is something that would address the question on how are you incentivizing the investments, especially for renewables?
Oh, fortunately, on this area, we're an outlier. There's an insatiable appetite. They will invest. So we've got a significantly matured financial sector. We have a history on delivering on major complex infrastructure projects. If you look at the failure rate of the projects from a financing point of view, competes or even surpass some of the better than what you find in the developed countries. So if you look at, we introduced a program in 2010, what we call the Independent Power Producer Program. To date, we have about 7,900 megawatts onto the grid as a result of that program. It has matured, and now we are removing the sovereign guarantee. We're going to go to the next round between now and 2030. We want 20 gigawatts of combination wind and solar, 2030 to 42, another 78 gigawatts. I'm confident it's going to be successful. And I did make the point earlier on, we designed a credit guarantee vehicle, so we don't want to burden the sovereign balance sheet. So what we're doing is that we're putting a syndicate of funders together. The state is going to have 25% skin in the game in that credit guarantee vehicle, and then other funders will come on board. So that's going to serve as a backstop. So if you like, it's an instrument that is meant to ensure that we provide the necessary guarantees. And also in the construction of the projects and the risk allocation, we're going to ensure that we don't always, part of the problem is that we socialize the risks and we privatize the returns. So there must be a good balance in that.
Yes.
The party that is best equipped to manage the risk must sit with the risk. So I must say that, no, we don't anticipate we'll sit with that problem. I announced over a month ago the first phase of the transmission expansion, that $25 billion US investment. I mean, the interest from all over the globe, the bids are closing now, oversubscribed. So we will not have that problem. But the point I'm making is that, of course, other countries on the continent don't have this benefit. Yes. Because of the sovereign balance sheet and that. So I think that it will be important, an instrument of the similar nature can be exported. It can take characteristics of that particular country. The other thing we have found to be useful in this program was to do what we call late-stage tender. By that I mean the permits are already in place, EIA, water use license, and then the right-of-way. So where you need to expropriate, you expropriate land so that you are able to build a transmission infrastructure. When the parties come on board, we have resolved all the permitting and licensing. So you have really de-risked the project. And then you can see that it's likely going to be successful.
Excellent. Actually, I recall that during the COP, Glasgow COP in 26, there was like a good dedication of like $8.5 billion for renewable projects.
Yes.
In order to phase down the coal power stations and to replace it with some renewable system and gas-fired plants and so forth. So what is the progress on that?
Yeah, so two things. So we're advocating for additionality. So it shouldn't be a condition that you must scale down on coal. Just leave our coal alone. It is going to power our energy requirements, but accelerate exponentially the onboarding of renewables. You need the base load to support that. So I think it's also a function of how we understand the science of how the grid operate. And the second part is with the international partners group, was to say it grew to $12.5 billion US.
Yes.
We asked the question, what of this facility is concessional and what is grant?
This is important.
And what is the cost of finance?
Correct.
So if I can raise the money from commercial banks, so the instrument is as good as not existing. So it should not be for political theater that there is a facility that's made available. It must genuinely benefit our people. We have not necessarily tapped on that. But like I said, the investments are growing because there's cheaper money somewhere. So it must compete with others. So don't, as a condition of dragging us to some direction in relation to how the global energy complex must look like, and on the surface introduce incentives to take us in that direction, when in fact, when you get to understand what the instrument is, we can go to our commercial banks and raise it cheaper. And with it over about $20 billion US in the investment on the independent power producers, 60% of that is domestic money. So yes, and I'm not advocating for a situation where you think you can do it alone. I think we need that liquidity, but it must be on our terms and conditions. Very, very important. Otherwise, we are relinquishing your sovereignty.
You are totally right. This sovereignty is something very important that we were all suffering from when we wanted to have to raise some debts, so you needed to have some sovereign guarantees. The last question, because we are running out of time, so regarding the critical role of South Africa in the regional cooperation. So you touched base on your presentation, but we would like to understand more, how are you doing for the interconnectivity, the power pool, and that in this domain, how can you just give some insight regarding regional cooperation with African countries?
Well, first is a relationship of equals. It's an important part. It's a relationship of equals. It's not a function of other matrices. It's just respecting the fact that these are sovereign countries, they are neighbors, and of course, in the region, we also have the benefit of having enjoyed very close relationships during our colonial wars, or against colonial masters, and these parties then prevailed to be the parties of preferred parties in their respective governments. So there's that relationship. And then the second one is to just an appreciation that we thrive when the neighbors are also thriving. So it's in our collective interest that we are able to work together. And then the third one is a point we raised earlier on, the need for policy harmonization, making sure that our policy articulation across the region is consistent. And then the last one is to ensure that we're able to work together to mobilize the necessary funding that is required to roll out the infrastructure. We do have the skills in the region, the engineering skills, technical, financial skills, and I think we can draw on the wealth of the resources that are in the region for us to be able to prosper and succeed. And that's why you have seen that the South African power pool is one of the most successful, and we intend to ensure that we keep it that way as we collaborate and cooperate with the other power pools to have a single Africa energy market. I think that's not an idea sometime far in the future. It's not a dream, yes, that's the word, yes. It's here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's happening.
It's happening.
So
absolutely.
this is something that we all hope to happen, and we have seen also in the presentation, the interconnectivity. You are just connecting all Africa from south to north to Europe to the Middle East, which is something very promising. We look forward for that. So give us some hands of applause for His Excellency. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
I wanted to have some more time. Thank you.
Thank you.